sort of scan of the room and find out who is developing in Joomla now, if anyone, and if they're not, if they're in WordPress. So anybody working in WordPress? Raise their hand. 2. Drupal? 3. Joomla? So are the ones that are not working in any content management system developers or just getting started? Just kind of throughout. Just getting started? Okay, so I don't have any hardcore Node.js Root 1? Okay, I'll try to put some stuff in there for you. Okay, well, welcome. My name is Dawn Russell, and I am the owner of 2 small companies that are based out of Brattleboro, Vermont. One is Artisan Web and Print, and the other is My Artisan Web. And they're basically 2 companies that dovetail each other. Artisan Web and Print is a front-end design firm. I build all of my sites currently in Joomla. And My Artisan Web is a hosting, white glove hosting. I basically have a dedicated box where I keep all of my Joomla sites, and I have mod security and all kinds of great backups and connection to the Amazon cloud and things like that going on. So basically, I'm a turnkey boutique studio. In my spare time, I'm a bluegrass banjo player, a gardener, and a dancer. So I try to balance out computer time with all these other things. So why don't we just jump right in? And I want to actually look at this in, let's see here. Is it going to show you the presenter view, or is it going to, oh, good. Yay. Okay, so who uses Joomla? Well, Joomla really is a content management system that can be used from a portfolio site for an artist all the way up to enterprise level large corporations. So we have musicians who want to put up, recent songs, integrate with SoundCloud, to, like I said, portfolios, to lawyers and anyone who needs a simple site. Then we have small businesses like restaurants, retail stores, catalogs, event management type situations that are possible. Nonprofits, you get a lot of medical institutions, educational institutions, health centers, charities. Works really well with crowdfunding and HubSpot, so you can do a lot of inbound marketing to raise money. I just finished a site, Friends of the Blind, which is an American charity that's working with Greece, and we did a language install and a translation service, so they can write the blog in Greek and then it gets translated to English, and of course you have to edit that a little bit because no translation is perfect. And then that blog gets published in the United States so that they can raise money for new programs for the sightless in Greece. Governments, we have the World Health Organization using it, NASA, a lot of town governments. So I think the sexual offender site is on Joomla. So it really is a very powerful database system that can keep information and present it in an organized fashion. And then, like I said, large corporations. So a few example sites that I was able to dig up is the Guggenheim Museum, which has multiple locations across the world. And they have a huge repository of information with regards to past shows and research opportunities, as well as what's happening and events calendars and blogs and signups and all kinds of amazing functionality happening there. And then on the right, sort of the opposite of that, is a very simplistic, super customized portfolio site for a photographer who is sort of breaking out of the bounds of what a traditional site would look like, and using interesting layout options to sort of get across the power of her own images. This is a site for a store in Brattleboro, Vermont called Maple Leaf Music. It's a fully responsive, touch-friendly site that has an extensive catalog and lots of customized fields for each instrument type and even each maker. And of course, as you resize it, it works really nicely, and it's extremely search engine optimized. And is within a 2-week, they were on a WordPress site and it got migrated over to Joomla. And within 2 weeks, using the search engine optimization tools that were available, within Joomla as well as with some Google Webmaster Tool integration. They went from page 9 and 10 in Google to showing up on page 1 and 2 for a major keyword. Things like Collins guitars and Pisca banjos and things that were important to them. On the left, we have the Eiffel Tower website, which is pretty cool. They have all sorts of things for signing up for event tours and, just connecting with other people that are going to be there and just really cool stuff happening. And then the World Health Organization for Africa, which, right now is getting a tremendous amount of traffic and, eyes and thinking and commentary. So it can handle a really heavy load of traffic and function really well inside of that. So that kind of gives you a sense of scope of what's possible with Joomla. So what is Joomla? Joomla is an open source content management system which provides a framework for building websites of all shapes and sizes, which I think I've demonstrated through some of those beginning templates that I showed you in websites. It is managed via a web browser, or you can develop locally, so you can install something like MAMP or WAMP or XAMPP on your computer and actually develop sites locally. You just need something that can handle MySQL and PHP and Linux and process that stuff. It is free, so you can basically go to the joomla.org website and download it. And if you have a server online, like you get a GoDaddy, or not a GoDaddy, but a Rocket account or HostGator account, you can install Joomla and get started and build a website without having to pay a cent for using it. The nice thing about that is that it's not proprietary. So you get into something like Squarespace or some of these other proprietary options, and 5 months down the road they go out of business or they raise their prices, and you're pretty much a slave to that once you've built your website. So I definitely recommend going with a content management system that's open source if you're going to be doing web development. It's fully extendable, and we'll get into some of the details of that a little bit further down the road here. And it's separated from the front end to the back end. So there's a front end area that you see, which is the front end of the website. You can edit from the front end with permission levels. And then it has a back end administrative portal where you do a lot of the work. So it's a little different than Drupal, where a lot of times you can do a lot of the work from the front end almost of the site. This actually has a different admin interface. And if we can get through these slides quick enough, I'll demo some of that for you. So do most of you know what a content management system is? Because I won't go into a lot of depth on that if you're familiar with what it is. It does make it easy to update a site. You can update it from anywhere in the world. You can have 1,000 people who are in charge of updating it with different levels of permission. So the main 3 content management systems that are being downloaded today are Drupal, Joomla, and WordPress. And each one of them have sort of their strengths and weaknesses. And I'll quickly just run through those for you. With Joomla, like I've shown you, you can build very simple websites, so you don't need a huge complex knowledge to be able to get up and running with one. However, it is extremely extensible, so you can bring in extensions that really expand the core functionality and go really far and wide with it. So it can be very versatile in that regard, and I think that's one of the things that's unique about Joomla. WordPress, if you want to really expand it, you have to have a lot of developers on hand to be able to start getting in there and making custom plugins and custom thises and custom that. So with Joomla, you pretty much can find that module or extension ready for you, and if you need something custom, which in my experience to date I haven't personally, you can contact the developer of that extension and you can have them build a little custom plugin for their extension for you. So you can kind of work as a 1 or 2 person shop and go pretty far. So that's a nice thing. But if you also want to just put together a quick little musician website, in 3 or 4 days, you can do that as well. Mm-hmm.
So content management system, that's an example of basically was
Do you like define content management? Sure, absolutely. So a content management system is a application that allows you, it has core functionality in place that's been developed. So it's going to be comprised of a series of files and folders that basically make something happen. In this case, it's making a website function in a once you put it on a server. Within the content management system, you have things like users. So you have a user manager where someone can either buy something and they become a user, and their permission would be something like registered. You can also have an administrative user who has permission to go in and add a slideshow or add images or even go in and change the template. So a content management system has users fundamentally. It also has the ability to add menu items, add articles. In the case of Joomla, with WordPress, it would be posts or pages. With Drupal, it's nodes, or I can't. Okay, so you have a variety of different content items that you can basically add to the site, and that can be your main content, and then your little sidebars, widgets, modules, blocks in Drupal. So you have those little pieces of content that can be placed around it. So in Joomla, you have your menu at the top. That is a module of content that's representative of what's in the database. So that's the other thing. With a content management system, you have a database where all the data is held. And then you have the display of that data, which is usually your template. And then how that data is managed is through the user management. Again, those users are held in the database. So it's kind of this system that's been built and devised. And in the case of Joomla, the content management system is actually built by an all-volunteer staff. There's 3 leadership teams, a production leadership team, a community leadership team, and a marketing leadership team. And those 3 teams sort of oversee the evolution and the development of the process. So Drupal is actually run by a company with a benevolent dictator as well as WordPress. So they're very sweet and wonderful people. I've met them, but it's ultimately a company-ran enterprise, where Joomla is actually a community-ran enterprise. So that's the difference between those as well. Does that give you a little more clarity? So a few of the benefits of Joomla are the fact that it's free, but so is WordPress and Drupal. It is open source, which means that the code is readily available if you want to fork it and go and do something really cool. And the cool thing about Joomla now is they're working with the MVC framework, so you can actually extract that from the core of Joomla and go and do something with your company that's an intranet kind of thing and build an application from that, which is really exciting stuff. I'm seeing some amazing things coming out of that. It is cross-platform. It has a lot of language support. Josetta is evolving some really great translation stuff. The support is very good. There's a huge forum that is all volunteer run, and you can either search inside of it, or you can put in a question, sign up for an account for free, and put in your problem, and you usually get a response within 24 hours, if not sooner. There are thousands of extensions. The security team, the Joomla security strike team, has been working really hard because there was a few issues with 1.5, which some of you may have heard of, with hacking and things like that. But that's not really an issue anymore, as long as you keep your plugins and modules up to date and you're very careful about which extensions you choose. The core Joomla, though, is I mean, anything that's on the internet can get hacked, but it's very, very hard to hack it unless someone's specifically, going for it. It's very developer friendly, and it's the second most downloaded system in the world at this point. WordPress originally developed as a blogging platform and then evolved into sort of a real content management system. It is easier to learn than Joomla. That's a common feedback that I hear. It may be even easier to use than Joomla. And it does have some great search engine friendly plugins that are a lot of fun to use. It is a little more restrictive in that it has less page types than Joomla does. It's required to put in a plugin if you want to change the sort order of your articles and hide features like author name or publish date. So those things come with core Joomla. It's a great platform. I don't knock it. I think all 3 are interesting for different reasons. Drupal, it has a steeper learning curve. You have to really, it's like, I think of Drupal as being a set of Legos, and this may be a common analogy for it, but in going to the groups and learning more and more about it, it's like you have this bag of Legos and you can build anything that you want. But you have to have the time to do that. If you want to build a castle, you got to spend all that time. Whereas, you may just want to go down to TJ Maxx and get the Barbie castle and be done with it. And that's more like WordPress. So, you know, I know. I'm probably not in friendly territory, but I think Drupal has some amazing things, and so does WordPress. Don't get me wrong. I just think of them different as far as how customizing it works. So, okay, so Drupal has a great community. It's really interesting how commits work and how everything is free. You don't have to pay for extensions. You don't have to pay for modules. People work on it together. I think it's a pretty phenomenal community in Drupal. So, but you have to have time. So when to use Joomla? I find it to be the perfect blend for simplicity and extensibility. It can be used for a wider range of projects, and because it's a CMS, you can manage it yourself. So you can build a site that's suited to your goals and objectives, which I really like. I mean, sometimes people come to me and say, Joomla is really not right for you, and I'm not a specialist in WordPress, and I think that might be perfect because you really want to focus on blogging, for example. And there are extensions you can put into Joomla for blogging, but why try to reinvent the wheel? So I just send them over to WordPress or something like that. But if it is something like a shopping cart or events calendar, I can go into the extension manager and basically, drill it down to, right here we have 8,500 extensions. So that's a lot. And these are all for the current long-term supported Joomla. This is not like extensions of 1.5 or 1.0. So these are all current extensions that can be put on a site that is downloaded from Joomla today. So you go in and you click on events, and you've got your top 4 popular ones or your top 6. And then when you drill down over to this side, let's see here. I'll give you a little. There we go. You have your breakdown. So what version of Ulana is this? What's your compatibility? So I'll talk about this a little bit. Joomla 2.5 is the long-term current release, but 3x is in development, and the long-term release will be released this fall. So you can develop them both at this point because 3x is in its 3rd iteration, so it's pretty stable. It's very stable, actually. So you can see the rating. There's 124 people that have actually given a rating and 237 people that have reviewed it. And it's a paid download. The links are right there to the site so you can demo it. You can read about the support, the documentation, all of that you can look at before you actually get into, deciding if you want to buy it or not. And I go completely through these before I take on any new extensions. I'll scroll down and I'll read all about the different reviews, what kinds of problems, and does it really meet my specification. So this extension directory is extremely useful for whittling things down. I certainly would not choose to put an extension on one of my sites that has less than 50 reviews or 50 feedbacks, because it's just not been tried and true unless I know the developer and they broke off on their own and started something and I know their code and I like their code. So, just be really careful when you get into this because this is not a jury extension directory in the sense that you have to go like WordPress, there maybe have somebody reviewing everything in depth in Drupal for sure. This is a little bit more open, and really you can be put on the bad list if your extension gets hacked and people start reporting it. But it's sort of an after the fact thing. So you just really want to be careful about what you choose and make sure it's going to meet your specification. That being said, I have very rarely had a customer come to me and say they needed something that wasn't available in some iteration of an events calendar through one of these providers. So almost any goal or objective has been able to be met through what is currently available out there. Yeah.
Question. You said buy an extension. Does that mean that every time you build a website and use that extension, you have to keep buying the extension, or does that mean you kind of like add it to the box and build up the website?
There are different models. It depends on the extension developer's model, subscription model. So there's subscription model and then there's purchase model. Subscription is and then there's some that have both. So a buy model is you buy it, you download it, and you can use it as long as that version of Joomla is currently supported. And then when a new version of Joomla comes out, you buy it and you have the new version. A subscription model means you actually can get support, and there's different levels of subscription models. So you get support, and as long as you're a subscribed member, you can actually download the product at any point in time, and then you can write and say, hey, I'm having trouble with configuring this. It's not working the way that your documentation says. I can't find the solution in your forum, so what do I do? And then they actually log into your site and help you figure out the problem. So I usually go with subscription-based type things, and it's something that I pass along to the client. So I do it even through a hosting breakdown. So I say, well, if you want to use Sue on your site, it's going to be an additional $550 a month because you're part of a co-op. Or if you want to pay for the subscription yourself, it's going to be $250 a year. And you can do it that way. So then it becomes a co-op thing. So I have multiple people and I end up making a profit on it. So not all extensions are paid. You can try them out as a basic and then move into the paid version if you like it. For example, Akiba Backup and Admin Tools, which I consider to be essential extensions for Joomla. One does your backupping and puts it in Dropbox, Amazon, Google Drive, whatever, that you can get for free. And then if you want to get the professional version, it just has a bunch of really cool tools. And it's only $30 a year, and you can use it on all your sites. Some people also have a situation where you have to buy it per site because it is so much work to maintain it. For example, e-commerce solution like Pika Shop, it's 99 euros per site, and then the second year and years subsequent after that, it's like 35 euros per year. Because he knows the first year he's going to have to help support you. Every e-commerce site requires separate setup, and he's factoring that into his support.
Does your company develop any extensions for this?
Can you speak up?
Does your company develop any extensions?
I'm not an extension developer, no. No, I'm mostly HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, jQuery.
How many extensions will be used by the website?
I always use Akiba Backup. I always use Admin Tools. There's a template that I install. So that's my basics. And then depending on what the functionality is for the site, I'll add things specific to that. Usually a slideshow type carousel grid situation, because I very rarely use slideshows, but there's so many cool things like Zen Tools has, and you can put it in and you can say, well, I want it to be a grid layout that has a magazine quality field, and you click on it, it has a light box. So that'll be a module type thing, which is not a full extension. And then my editor is a plugin that it's not an extension, it's a plugin. So with Joomla, you have modules, you have plugins, and you have extensions. Plugins work on the core code of Joomla. So it's working with core code that's there, and it's basically putting a text editor into your article. That is a plugin, whereas an extension is actually, I think of it like putting a garage on your house. It's actually adding something to core. It may work with core, but it's building on top of that.
Plugins are open source?
What's that?
Plugins are open source?
Plugins, all of it is usually GPL, open source. So some of the plugins, I'll show you on the back end how it's set up when we do that. You'll see that more.
Is there a similar ecosystem of themes?
In Joomla, instead of it being called a theme, it's called a template. But yes, it's a similar system. It does come with some core templates, both administrative and front-end templates. And then every template provider has free templates that are available to download. And you can start with those and then do customizations. You can make your own custom overrides for that. And then there's also the subscription service that you can purchase, or lifetime developer membership, and you basically pay $300 and you can get templates forever from them. So.
You may want to repeat the question.
Oh, the question is our templates also something you would purchase, and similar to plugins, modules, and extensions.
Line dependent.
Hmm?
It's a line dependent. Line depends the.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. What's going on? Okay. Okay, so where do you put Joomla? You basically need a LAMP stack. So that's the easy way to remember it. The hard way is to say Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. So these are the 4 aspects that you need on your either local drive or on your server to run Joomla. Linux is the operating system. You could also use Windows, but if you do, you need IIS version 7. Linux, you can use CentOS or Ubuntu. And Apache is required version 2. MySQL, you need 5.1, and PHP minimum of 5.3.1, which is probably the most cutting edge of any of the 3 content management systems. So this is the sort of the server stack and how it looks and works. Apache is, I think of Apache as a mailman. It's the one that basically says, oh, somebody at this browser wants to look at this image, or they want to execute this form, and then the browser says, I need this PHP file, or I need this image, and Apache says, okay, I'll go get it, and then it brings it back. MySQL is where the data is stored, and then PHP is the language that basically creates the functionality on the site. So whenever anything is happening, PHP running that. So why use Joomla? It's in active development. We have a very, very aggressive release schedule at this point. It is really focused on fortified security. We have a new cloud storage API that allows you to connect your files and import them. You have a new front-end editing, not only of main component content, like the main content of an article, but you also can edit the modules now from the front end, which is brand new. jQuery is integrated into Joomla now, which in the past, Joomla 2.5 and 1.5 was a real issue because every single extension developer was having to load jQuery. So you get a lot of conflicts, like, I just installed this and now my slideshow doesn't work, because you had multiple jQueries interfering with one another. So now it's part of core, which we're super excited about. We also have SEO microdata available now, so you can take advantage of, this is the phone number, this is the address, this is the business type, this is the business name, and that really helps with your rankings tremendously in Google. Some of the other things that came out with 3, this is 3.3, which is just, so the way the release schedule works is there's the major versions, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. And then there's the micro sort of versions where it started with 3, which was sort of the alpha, and then 3.1 was a beta, 3.2 was another beta, 3.3 was a beta, 3.4 will be a beta, and then 3.5 will be long-term stable. So 3.3 is this most recent thing that's come out. 3.2 came out about 2 months ago. And with 3, we put Bootstrap in the back end, which means that you can edit your website on a plane on your phone because it's responsive. So that's, I think we're the first, Joomla is the first, I say we because I've been so involved in the project over the last 6 months. But Joomla has really moved forward by saying, hey, you know, we're busy, we're traveling, we need to be able to update our website, and so let's bring Bootstrap in. And that's a Twitter sort of evolution of, it's a framework basically that makes things mobile responsive. So there's an image of the back end right there. You can see the control panel on the left with a sidebar and the main content and your full menu across the top, and then what it looks like on a phone, which basically flows it all down so that you can get in there, edit with your finger, you know, touch things and get in there and make changes. Joomla also, with the 3 release and 2.5, has extremely advanced ACL. So a lot of times people would use Drupal for universities and larger projects because Joomla did not have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to create a group called agriculture professors, and the agriculture professors can update only their staff page inside the agriculture site. That didn't exist before, but now it does. You can create the group, you can create the access levels per user, and then you can actually go into the menu items and say these menu items are not accessible unless this group or this user has this permission level. It's extremely powerful. Again, you can manage your own content. So here's a site where you see the front of the site and someone has logged in. There's a little login button on the top right-hand corner. And they basically have what is, this is not a core Joomla plugin editor. You can see it looks almost like Word. That is the plugin that I put in. It's called Joomla, Joomlack. It's the editor that I really like. So it basically allows, because it looks like Word, your client can easily go in and say, oh, I misspelled this, or oh, I've got this new thing I want to add, and it looks like they're right on the page and you can visualize it. It's really easy. One of the other things that I guess why I've stuck with Joomla so long is because I never learned PHP. I know PHP snippets and I can kind of follow along, but I actually came into web design as a designer. I worked in fine art and craft for years, and Photoshop and Illustrator, and so my attraction to web design came from client requests and the fact that it was sort of a really complex project that required strategy to approach. I love the idea of solving this big problem and using it with interesting user interfaces and designs. So I went back to graduate school and learned HTML5 and CSS to be able to achieve what I was trying to get. And you can actually build a fully custom template just knowing HTML and CSS with just a few PHP snippets. The includes that you put in your template are so simple. There's just a basic list of them. You can have a cheat sheet and then go and completely build a custom template with that. You can bring Bootstrap into it or whatever framework you want to use, OneWeb, and move forward from there. So it's really easy to customize. Whereas when I took the customization, building your own template from scratch WordPress class, I was like loops and arrays, and it just got all very, very complicated. It took me away from what I love to do, which is design. And then the same thing with Drupal. I mean, it's pretty much you need that partnership of developer and designer in order to pull off a custom template, as far as I know, and that may be changing, but that's why I've stuck with Joomla, because I'm a designer, and I really didn't want to go. I don't want to spend all my time in PHP. And the other really good reason that I use Joomla is because of the fact that it's got a great community. I've met some really amazing people from all over the world. Went to the World Conference in Boston last year and met Muez from Ethiopia, and he's doing these amazing projects using Joomla through Johns Hopkins, getting people access to water, clean water that they can drink and feel safe to drink. It's just really cool. So I'm not gonna get all worked up about it, right? But it is. It's nice because you work alone so much and you're in front of a computer, but then you realize that you're part of this bigger network, and I really like that. Okay, so how to use Joomla. I'm going to get into some demoing just to kind of show you guys around. These are the kind of things I really want to touch on, and I've been talking for 30 minutes. We have like 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes. So why don't we do this? Are there any questions right now as far as what I've covered and what you're interested in? Any comments, feedback, what you want to see?
So you're developing a site for a client, right? And if they can use Word, they can use that little thing with the add-on and put in there.
Mm-hmm.
In Joomla, how would they get an idea of what that looks like without their editing interface? Do they just have to make their changes and post it and then look at it without all the edit tabs and things in there, or is there a way to preview all the changes that they're making?
Well, actually, it's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because the new version of Joomla has versioning. So that's a new feature. So you can actually, if a client goes in and makes a change, you can have subsequent versions that you can revert back to. So that's something we didn't have. Now, is there a preview button? I've never used a preview because I use the styles and the drop down are connected. I actually, in my style sheet, so there's the custom.css and WordPress style.css. I'll actually create a series of styles that then I tell the editor to use these styles. And so the client then will know through my tutorial videos that all headers need to have an H1 tag, and then they need to have this style called the style for the About Us page. And they pick the style and they highlight it. And then it shows them that in the window. So the only thing they're not really seeing in reality is what it looks like without the editor at the top. There's not exactly like a preview button that you can press that pops up something to give you a sense.
Okay.
Does that?
Well, no, I'm just thinking like, if you're looking, I'm assuming you log into the site and you'll have in certain areas, you'll see a current page, you can like click here, it brings you into that text area, right?
So I'll show you that. Let's just run through that real quick. So this is that site I was talking about. I actually showed you up there. So here's okay. So here's an article, and then let's say I want to log in. Oh, sorry. I said share my screen. Thank you. Why is that? Okay, it seems to have like taken over. Let me just exit out. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I basically just click the login button, which is why isn't that showing? Let me see here.
Drag it over. I need to
Okay. Oh, it's on extend. You're right. There we go. Thank you. So up here is a little login button that brought me to this screen. So then the client just logs in. And then it has their information there. And then let's say they want to edit the museum, the tactual museum. So like you said, there's your edit button. And it does take the image out because the image is, you know, stored here. So let's just go through this real quick. So you have your editor here, and let's say you want to style this particular thing and make it bold and italicized. You can get a sense of what that looks like right there in the window. If there were certain styles that I had made for them, which I haven't, then you would have the style drop down here. I mean, you have your basic ones. And I've set this editor to show the style sheet classes. So these different headings and things like that are what the style sheet classes look like. While we're in here, I'll just show you some of the other features of editing from the front end. You can add your images and then the alt title for your images, which in this case was very important because it's a site for the blind, so accessibility was huge. And then you click your select and it takes you right into the media manager and allows you to upload your images to the media manager from your desktop right there. It has a lot of different publishing options. You can give it tags, and in this case, I've tagged it cultural and educational because the museum is both cultural and educational, so you can click on education and get all the programs that they do with that. Which language should it support? And then here's where your SEO comes in, your meta description, and then your keywords. So when you're done, you basically click save, and then you have a full view here. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So in Joomla, you click, it overlays this little box, and so then you go down to another level to see the actual editing functions.
Yeah, you click on this and it opens the editing right here. And then you can see now you can edit right here in a module, which is brand new. That's what I was talking about, where you could edit sidebars of content. That did not used to be the case. Like I could edit the banner, so I don't have to know where this is in the back end anymore. And I think that was one of the biggest complaints of Joomla is that where is this in the back end? What's a module? Like for a client, that's really hard to figure out. So now it's like, okay, well, you want to edit that? It takes you to the spot, and I'm not logged into this particular browser, but it takes you into the spot where you need to edit it. So it takes you right to that module. You don't need to know to go to the module manager. You don't need to know that it's a custom HTML module, and you're allowed to edit it right there. Okay, so there was another question. Go ahead.
Sure. You were talking about extensions and how they do a lot of nifty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
And
some of them are free.
Okay, I'm just curious about if there's an organization who's really putting together a website on a shoestring, and considering this platform, is it to do the really make a Joomla site come alive? Do you need the paid extensions, or can you just stick to free extensions?
You can stick to free extensions if you want to use a text editor that's not paid. One that's excellent is JCE. That's a fabulous one. You can get Admin Tools Basic and then Akiba Basic. You probably want to purchase a slideshow. I think ZenTools might even be free. Let me see, I have a subscription with them, so I never noticed, but this is a fabulous one. It's made by Joomla Bamboo, which is also a template provider. Let's see here. zentools.joomlabamboo.com. They have, if you can see the demo right here, really beautiful. So their slideshow, you can do it with thumbnails, without. They have, this is all part of ZenTools, so you can do a carousel, and it shows you a little sort of side demo right there, and then what it would look like in various, there's hundreds of different settings to configure it, and this is, no coding at all. You just basically, and it can connect to article content. So you can say, okay, well, I want you to show everything in this category. And it's a good way to get people driven into particular pieces of content. It also has a grid option, which is a grid of images, an accordion, which allows you, basically you click on something and it opens it up type of situation. So that would be one that's free, but I think you can get pretty far without having to spend much money. I mean, if you're building sites, you should be getting at least, for starter company, $1,500 per site, minimum. So for $1,500, you'll want some training time for yourself, and spend a couple $100 on extensions, and I like going paid because I know that I can always contact the developer. I like that. It's a safety blanket. I'm sort of in that mode. And they like it too because they've been working their butts off. So, did you have a question back there?
Yeah, when I was watching you edit that website
Mhm.
with adding pictures to it,
Mhm.
it allows you to take the picture right from your computer.
Mhm.
Does that get uploaded to a server?
Yes, so basically your media manager is also part of your database. So here from the back, this is the back end of the site. Let me zoom in for you so you can actually see. Zoomed in a little too much. See how it went into mobile mode there? So just so you can see that. So here under content, you've got your articles, your categories, and then featured articles, which I very rarely use, and media manager. So with Joomla, the order of creating things is categories first, then articles, then your menu items. If you go in and try to create a menu item, it's not going to work because there's nothing to link to if you don't have an article. And if you put your article in no category, then your site has no organization. So menus are how you organize it for the user for the front end. Categories are how you organize it for yourself from the back end. So categories never have to be seen by the front end, but it's a way for you to put content into the website in a meaningful way so that you can find it. And then what you highlight for the user on the front end is based on usability patterns and analysis of Google Analytics and things like that. So you create your categories, you create your articles, and then you go in and you create your menus. Just wanted to touch on that. The Media Manager is much more powerful than WordPress. And actually, I'm going to zoom out here because it looks a little funky. Okay. In that you can actually control inside an article when you're uploading your images, you can actually control what folder it goes to. And you can create a new folder. With the upload inside WordPress, it's like crapshoot, basically. Yeah, it's just one big thing. So if you ever want to find that image again, good luck. Yeah, you have to search. So this is, you can see I've been very, very clear here. Each specific program has its own. So the ceramics program for the Friends of the Blind has its own thing here. If I want to create a new folder, and then the upload, I can actually, without having to have FTP, I can upload. I've got these up because I was just creating a demo. I can upload 7 at a time. So, you have everything organized on the left here, and then you have it here. You can create new folders and then upload. And then when you're inside the article, this is editing from the back end. You can basically click here, and then this is the teaser image. This is the full article image. So what you see before the read more line, if you have like a category blog layout where you have multiple little snippets of things on the front end, you would use the intro image, so it should be smaller and sized for that. And then the full article image is what you see when you actually click into the article. And when you click to select that, then you can say, okay, I don't have the image there yet. So what I want to do is I want to put it into ceramics. So I'm going to click on ceramics, and then I'm going to go here. I'm going to choose a picture of myself because I was giving them my bio, and then you can upload it, and it uploads it right there to the Media Manager. You can click and then insert it, and you're good to go. So if you were to go into the Media Manager, come back here and look, you would find it in that folder, so it's nice and tidy, which I just deleted it, so that's why it's not there. Unless it's in this one. There it is. It's like, oh. Okay, so one other thing I want to show you about the articles and the menus, a new feature that's in Joomla, is that you can actually drag and drop sort. So you can take them and change the order by dragging and dropping the sort right here. You don't have to go in. In the past, you had to go into the article, find the little drop down, and change the ordering. A couple other things I just want to go over real quick. You were asking about plugins and extensions. So under components, components is the menu item for an extension. So anytime you put an extension in, or there's core extensions in here, you're going to see it show up here. So you can see I've got my admin tools, which is a security extension. It's essential. I use it. It blocks bad behavior, SQL injections, all kinds of CSF, RF shields. Everything is done with that. People logging in and trying to break into my site, they get blocked, their IP gets added to a list. All that's handled with admin tools. I keep a backup. Like I said, I can create cron jobs and do backups automatically, so I don't have to go in and back the site. But if the client does a bunch of updates, they can go right into a key backup. And I'll just show you how one of these looks. I just updated this, so that's why it's giving me, I have to accept the terms. So here's a backup panel. So, oh, I just updated some article stuff. I want to take a backup, and then I click backup now. Boom, I'm good to go. But I also have automated ones. I back up every day for 7 days, one per week for a month, and one per month for 6 months, so that if somebody puts an egg into one of my sites and it doesn't burst for 2 months, and there's a hack, I can go back 3 months and say, at least we've got that much to go from. And then import the new database, the database entries, and so I basically have a good site. So extensions are placed here. Modules, it's kind of confusing. I don't know why. I never really realized that. I might have to talk to the team about that. Components all the extensions are under the components, and then when you want to install an extension, you would go to the extension manager here. And you would have your manage, so you can see all the extensions, and you can filter them here by what type they are. So is it a plugin? Is it a module? Is it a language file? That's how you control what's installed and what's not installed and uninstalling it. There's a new feature here where you can discover. So if something was installed on an earlier version and you update to the new, you can click the discover button and it'll tell you, and then you can install right from the directory, which is pretty cool. Not to get, there's a little deeper dive stuff. The modules are all those little side things. So this is all controlled here. So thank you for your donation. Menu, the banner, all this stuff is controlled inside the module manager. And you wouldn't need to know that if you wanted to edit from the front end, which is what I showed you earlier. And you were logged in here. You could just click on this and edit this module, and it'll take you right to the module manager that you need to, the particular module inside the module manager. And then the plugins. So here's what you were asking about earlier. Let's just take a look at that. Okay, we're in there. So if you look on the right here, there's plugins that actually come with Joomla and are specific to Joomla, and then there's plugins that I added. So in this case, they wanted to have a donation extension added because they're handling donations for all different types of programs and initiatives and campaigns. So I had to install Joom Donation, which I paid for. It was $29. And then inside of that, I needed certain plugins. They needed a plugin for the form so that I could put the form in an article. So somebody wouldn't have to go to a special donate page to donate. They can donate right there when they read about the ceramics workshop and say, wow, I'm really interested in this. I want to donate. So you reduce clicks. So that's a plugin that works with Joom Donation to make it function a little bit better. So plugins are a little smaller. There's that editor plugin right there I was talking about. And this is where you can configure all the options Okay, if someone's editing from the front end, I only want them to see the basic toolbar. I don't want them to see the toolbar I have access to, because I don't want them creating tables. I don't want them adding PHP. I don't want them, or whatever. You know, like I have full access to a big bad editor, and then they have their basic. They can like go left, go right, center, make it bold, you know, basic stuff. And there's all kinds of great configuration options. And this is what I was trying to explain about the extensions that come with, that you purchase for Joomla or download for Joomla, have so many different configurations. It's not necessary to know how to use them for it to get up and running like with Drupal, but it is there if you want to extend it and make it specific. I can even change the background color of the editor, how the text normally aligns. Do I want it to process the HTML entities, and all kinds of good stuff. Let's see if there's anything else here. Yes, thank you. That was my next step. Thank you. Okay, so templates. Actually, I really want to show you templates in here because I put in a bunch so you could see. So this is that same template that we just saw for Friends of the Blind. It's called Portal. It's by Joomla Bamboo, and you can see it without any styling at all or any updates. This is kind of what it looks like out of the box. To install a template, you basically go, just like anything else, to your extension manager and click Install, and scroll down, choose your template from wherever the folder is, and then upload install. Once you've installed your template, you can go to Extensions, Template Manager, and you have your different templates. So let's say I didn't like Portal and I want to see salt and pepper. I basically make it default just like in WordPress, and there you go. Now the thing about templates, and this is a really good trick, at the end of the templates, if you add $TP = 1, you can see all the positions. So you can say, hey, I really want stuff inside border 1, or I really want stuff in position top, or I can't figure out why that content is showing up here. So then you can identify where you need to put it. And of course, you can turn this feature off. Right now I have it enabled for the demo, but of course once you launch the site, you want to disable that because you don't want people ripping apart your work once it's up there. It's a little unprofessional. So, but you can enable the module positions right there. With the another really cool thing for developers out there. If you click here, you've got the template styles, and this is how you make it default. And in each template, there's a bunch of parameters to configure. But let's say you want to make a child theme, which is not really a child theme in Joomla. You want to do an override. Then you can go in to the templates admin view here, and there's a full editor now. This is Ram actually built this. He's from India. I got to meet him at the Joomla World Conference, and he did this as part of his Google Summer of Code internship. So on the left, these are all the files that make up this particular template. And if I want to go in and edit my CSS, for example, I can create a custom CSS file right in here by going New File, select CSS, Custom. Oops, did I do something wrong there? Anyways, you can basically, you get the concept. You can go in here, you can create a new custom.css file, and then once you've got that file, you can go in and edit, and it shows you the CSS with actual coding, you know, with the color and the proper layout, so that you can make your edits. Once you click save, it's live on the main site, and of course, it's not. I would turn versioning on if you're going to do something like that, but it's a wonderful, wonderful tool if you're on the go and you're like, oh no, this is laying over top of that, and the client just called me and I don't have Dreamweaver with me or whatever, Sublime or something. You can just go in there and what?
Oh, no, that's what I had heard a while. Oh no, I don't have Dreamweaver.
I'm an Adobe product user. So, any other questions we got? Yeah.
How does Joomla versus spam? I use WordPress very often, and we get a lot of spam users that comment. How does Joomla?
Well, commenting is not native in Joomla, and when I put in commenting, well, actually, it's not native in Joomla, but there is the ability to integrate with Mullum using admin tools. So that security extension that I was talking about here, you can actually configure your extension so that it has spam filtering here inside the web application firewall. So at first, if you don't configure anything, it's awful. I think any website is. But there are tools that you can go in under this configure your WAF. There's all kinds of how you can harden it, how you can block honeypot integration, all right here, and then logging and reporting. So you can get into the details, and it's all well documented on the backup site. So it doesn't come with commenting. So it's not a blogging, it didn't have that built in, but anytime I add it, at first it's awful, and then I just set up Mulum integration, CAPTCHA. It does have CAPTCHA built in, Google CAPTCHA integration. It's under the system config. So once you put the tools in place, no spam at all. I would do it when you're building the website, yeah. And what I do is you can see this is called base3.artisan web and print. So I've created my basic site with the extensions I pretty much install on any site, which is admin tools, Akiba Backup, the editor, and it's already got the configurations, and then I just rip a backup of that, and then when I start a new site, I install that backup. And I have everything in Joomla connected to Watchful, which is a third-party app that I pay for, and it tells me whenever any plugin or extension goes out of date. I get a little notice in my email. So then I go into Watchful, and I've got all my sites listed that I host, and I just go in and I update them, double check that everything's going good, and this one is one of them. So I know my base site is always, current software. So, any other questions? Let me just double check that I got everything here, because I had that big list. I know we're out of time, but I just want to. Let me get to the end here. Oh no, we go fast. So I had to close this out because of the thing. Okay, we did Media Manager, ACLs, the updating tool. Let me just show you that real quick, and then we'll be done. I think I did everything else there. Okay, so also with the new version of Joomla 2.5, we have the updating tool, which if you go to the control panel, which is where you come when you're logged in, and this is fully customizable. These are modules in the back end that you can assign to these positions, so you can turn off all this stuff and put in, edit my shopping cart, or add a new product, or whatever your client needs. So see here it says that there's an update available. So in the past, everybody would always complain about Joomla because WordPress always tells you there's an update. I left this one just so I could demo it. So this Akiba Backup needs an update. So then I basically click it and then click update. And it does it for you. It does a backup first because I have Akiba Backup installed. So the backup happens because you should always back up before you update. So I've configured it to do that. It's going to back up the site. And so if this update breaks something, I can always revert in one click back. And then it will install that for me, and we'll be good to go. And that's a new feature that has made life so much easier, because before it was like you got to go get the extension, download it from the extension provider, install it from the back end to get it updated, and now it's all one click. So, and if we go to Akiba Backup, you'll see here it says post-installation message, everything is good, and it's up to date. So, no, I have all my backups going to the S3 cloud, Amazon, and inside of here, the Akiba Backup configuration, you have the ability right here to choose, zoom in on that, which platform. So you can go to Dropbox, SugarSync, WebDev, CloudMe, any of these, and you just need your S3 key or whatever API key that they provided you with and password to do that. So, and then I also have my cPanel backing up on a mounted backup drive as well. So I have 2 backups of everything. All right. Great. Are there any other questions? Did I answer all your questions? Yay. Okay, good. Well, I hope you use Joomla. If you have any questions at all about anything, just let me know, and I'll post my slides on SlideShare, and I guess they'll have this here as well, so we'll get all the links in there, and you'll be able to reference back what I put in here. Okay? Well, thank you.